John Wayne Gacy, dubbed the killer clown by media and public alike, lived a split existence, so bizarre it feels more like fiction than fact. One side showed up smiling, friendly neighbor, party entertainer, guy who made kids laugh in face paint. Behind that mask, though, a hidden world filled with unspeakable acts. We're pulling back the curtain on who Gacy really was, not just rumors or myths, but raw truth. The choices he made. The trail of harm left behind. And then there's the end. What actually happened when his time ran out? So what did he say right before they carried out the execution? Hang on till the last part, because we're uncovering surprising facts about his eerie finale. John Wayne Gacy, the killer clown's last words, and his deadly legacy. Born on March 17, 1942, in Chicago, Illinois, John Wayne Gacy seemed like an unlikely figure to become one of the most notorious serial killers in history. Raised in a family that was far from perfect, Gacy had a strained relationship with his father, a harsh and alcoholic man who belittled and abused him. His mother, on the other hand, was fiercely protective. But this created a confusing dynamic that Gacy would later struggle with. Growing up, Gacy was a quiet, somewhat shy boy, struggling with his father's constant belittling. But something inside him started to twist. At a young age, he began to develop disturbing behaviors, including his first acts of violence. In his teenage years, Gacy began to show signs of serious psychological issues that would eventually escalate into horrific crimes. He went on to join the U.S. Navy, where he spent a few years, but even there, his behavior was erratic. After returning to Chicago, Gacy began to assume a new persona, one of a successful businessman, community leader, and even a political figure in the local Democratic Party. But beneath the facade was a man hiding a dark secret. By the early 1970s, Gacy had settled into a seemingly normal life. He was married, owned a successful construction business, and frequently hosted parties in his home. He was also involved in local Chicago politics, even working on campaigns for local candidates. But underneath it all, Gacy was living a sinister double life. Behind closed doors, Gacy would invite young boys into his home, offering them work or even a place to stay. What followed were unimaginable horrors. Gacy would sexually assault, torture, and murder these young men and boys, many of whom were runaways or from troubled backgrounds. He would then dispose of their bodies. Some were buried beneath his house, while others were discarded in nearby rivers. As time passed, Gacy became increasingly brazen. He even performed as Pogo the Clown at children's parties, an act that would soon take on an entirely sinister meaning. No one could have imagined the horrors that this seemingly friendly clown was hiding. The investigation into Gacy's crimes began when 15-year-old Robert Piest went missing in December 1978. Robert had been last seen with Gacy, and this would turn out to be the pivotal moment that led to Gacy's downfall. After Robert's disappearance, the police began digging into Gacy's past. What they uncovered would shock the entire world. Authorities soon discovered the grotesque truth. Gacy was arrested, and the investigation revealed his horrifying acts. When they searched his home, they found multiple bodies buried in the crawl space of his house. The total number of victims Gacy confessed to was 33. Investigators were horrified by the brutality of his murders, with each crime more disturbing than the last. Gacy had lured his victims with promises of work, only to bind them, torture them, and then strangle them. The sheer scope of his killings, combined with his calm demeanor, made Gacy one of the most chilling serial killers in history. Gacy's trial began in 1980, and it was a media sensation. His defense team tried to argue that Gacy was insane and incapable of understanding the nature of his actions, but the prosecution was relentless. Gacy's calmness and lack of remorse throughout the trial was unsettling to many who watched. The details of his crimes were presented to the jury, and Gacy's fate was sealed. Gacy was found guilty of 33 murders, and he was sentenced to death by lethal injection. His trial lasted only a few weeks, but the ramifications of his actions would haunt the world forever. After being convicted, Gacy was sent to Illinois' Menard Correctional Center to await his execution. But even behind bars, Gacy's behavior remained unsettling. He spent the next 14 years filing appeals, claiming his innocence, and even trying to delay his execution. He became something of a celebrity among the public, with some seeing him as a twisted figure of intrigue. During his time on death row, Gacy would continue to paint and create artwork, some of which depicted his infamous clown persona. He also gave interviews, always remaining defiant and sometimes even mocking the victims' families. His refusal to show remorse, even in prison, was one of the many things that disturbed people the most. After years of delays, Gacy's execution was finally scheduled for May 10, 1994. As the day approached, the media frenzy surrounding his death was immense. Finally, the moment arrived. Gacy was led to the execution chamber, and the world watched as this notorious killer faced the ultimate consequence for his actions. At 12:58 a.m., Gacy was declared dead after receiving a lethal injection. But just before his death, Gacy's final words were a crude and defiant statement: "Kiss my ass." These words were shocking to many, a final act of rebellion from a man who had shown no remorse for his crimes. Gacy's death did not bring closure to everyone. For the families of his victims, his final moments were seen as just another display of his cruelty. Yet, his execution also marked the end of a dark chapter in American criminal history. Today, John Wayne Gacy remains one of the most infamous criminals in history. His story is one of horror, manipulation, and the dark side of human nature. But even in death, Gacy's legacy continues to haunt the world. What do you think of John Wayne Gacy's final words? Was he a victim of circumstance, or was he pure evil? Thanks for watching. If you found this video chilling, be sure to like, share, and subscribe. Don't forget to comment below with your thoughts on Gacy's final moments and legacy. For more true crime stories, stay tuned to our channel.